Have you ever felt like your leadership development efforts just weren't connecting? I mean, you're doing your best, you're telling moving stories, funny jokes, you have an outline filled with powerful insights, you even have a professional PowerPoint presentation. But people just stare at you disinterested and disengaged. And ultimately, your training isn't producing the leadership transformation you want to see. Well, stay tuned because today I'm going to show you 3 factors that you can capitalize on to supercharge your leadership development efforts. Hey guys, this is Mac Lake bringing you tips, tools, and techniques to help you develop more and better leaders. You know, there are times, despite our best efforts, that our leadership development just doesn't seem to be producing results. And it's easy at that point to assume leadership development just doesn't work for you or your organization. Or even worse, we point the finger at those pool of potential leaders and we begin to accuse them of not being committed or not being hungry to grow. But perhaps they're not connecting with your leadership development efforts because you're not connecting your efforts to the right things. Let me explain. After a few decades of developing leaders, I've noticed there are 3 factors that can increase the impact we have on a leader's character and competencies. But honestly, most organizations do not capitalize on these 3 factors. So today, I'm going to give you 3 diagnostic questions that you can use to see if you're taking advantage of these 3 factors. Diagnostic question number 1. Are you connecting your leadership development efforts to a relationship? Here's one of the most important things I can tell you about leadership development. Leadership development is best done in the context of relationship. Leaders develop leaders, not programs. Leaders develop leaders, not curriculum. Leaders develop leaders, not content, all right? If all your leadership development efforts are classroom, lecture, sending out videos, having people fill in the blanks, large group based, then you're missing one of the most powerful means of developing leaders. When you match potential leaders with existing leaders and let those existing leaders pour into those other people, then something powerful happens. This relational element of development is huge. I spend a lot of time leading large workshops and conferences, and there's a place for those things. But I want to be honest with you, I would much rather sit around with 3 people around the table for a few weeks and dive deep into leadership together. Giving them assignments, seeing what they're learning, seeing where they're struggling, and seeing how transformation takes place right before my very eyes. I love that. There's nothing more fun. So the question is, are you connecting your potential leaders to existing leaders they can learn from? Making sure new leaders are connected into relationship with an existing leader is a huge element of the success of leadership development efforts. Diagnostic question number 2. Are you connecting your leadership development efforts to the role? New leaders learn best by doing the work, not by listening to someone tell them how to do the work. Sometimes we give our leaders all the information they need to know how to lead in a role, but we never let them lead. We never let them practice in the context of that role. There's a concept I heard about years ago. It's called productive failure. And productive failure, in essence, is allowing people to try and fail and learn from their experience as a process of helping them develop greater proficiency. Now, it's funny because in traditional leadership development, we tend to tell new leaders how to do a skill and then just expect them to get it without factoring in the allowance for failure. It's the old myth of, I told you, therefore you can now do it. But without productive failure, people can't learn to be successful. So, are we giving people the opportunity to develop and swing the bat in that position, in that role, get a feel for the task before we give them a title? Let me give you a practical exercise. Make a long list of tasks of your leadership role that you're training somebody for, okay? Then, give that new potential leader the opportunity to practice little by little. Don't give them everything, just one thing at a time. And over time, through productive failure, they will begin to gain not only competence, but confidence needed to perform well. But if they're being developed outside the role, then it's going to be really difficult for them to get it because they're not getting to practice. If you need a good illustration of this, just consider how seminary functions. Young men go away to seminary to become pastors, and in many cases they're being taught the role of a pastor, but they're being taught in the classroom, not in the context of a church. And as a result, they get out after 4 years of training without 1 ounce of productive failure. Now, all of a sudden, they find themselves on the field, leading a church without the safety net of a mentor. And that's just not practical. And we don't want to do that same thing to the leaders in our organization. Diagnostic question number 3. Are you connecting your leadership development efforts to results? One of the most important questions we need to ask about our potential leaders is this: do they have the competency to produce the results we expect in that role? Now, if we're honest, often we're offering training that gives them the know-how, but we never test for comprehension and competency. Can they actually do the job in a way that produces the intended results? So, for example, this is what this might look like. If I'm training a new leader, and I want them to learn to lead a team well, and I want them to learn to do what I do, then I'm going to have to give them the opportunity to lead a meeting, to plan a team event, to lead a team training. I need to allow them to lead my team at times to get practice. And as I watch them lead my team, then I can see what they can do well. So as I allow them to lead my team, I can begin to see, do they have the ability to build trust? Are people following them because of the position or because of influence? Do they recognize how to leverage the different strengths of the people on the team? Can they relate to the team based on the team's individual personalities? Do they have the emotional intelligence needed to generate a spirit of collaboration? These are the results I need to see them produce when they're in that role. So if I let them have tasks before I give them the title, then I can see if they're able to produce those types of results. And when they don't, then I can coach them. When they do, I can praise them. So hey, if you're not getting the results you want from your leadership development efforts, then take a look behind what you're doing and make sure the potential leaders you're working with are connected in relationship with an existing leader. They're learning in the context of the role, and they're actually being evaluated through practice to ensure they can produce the right results. If you capitalize on relationship, role, and results, you might just power up the impact of your leadership development. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you click the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell at the top so you can be notified every Tuesday when I upload a new video. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next time.